Okay.
Watch my shoes. Ladies and gentlemen, Hayley Quinn.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you very much for having me, guys. And I'm really pleased that I found this place after wandering around aimlessly in this godforsaken hotel for half an hour. You're privileged today that I've actually, I really wanted to deliver a seminar or a talk to you guys that I thought would benefit you and give you as much of my perspective as I can. I'm going to tell you now, I don't really talk about female perspective, so I'm not going to bleat on about a load of feminist issues or tell you about my feelings as a woman or what I find attractive or what the last guy that I hooked up with did or any of that stuff, because that's not really where I'm at or what I'm about. In fact, I really connect and really like what Ross was saying in here about, I think that his techniques about getting really grounded and centered within yourself and discovering the roots of how to be seductive within you, that's much more about what my ballpark is. So today what I'm going to be looking at is I'm going to be trying to kind of pick apart the idea of seduction and bring it back to what is within your control and what you can feel within yourself and how you can enact that. Because I think when I hear the word seduction, maybe as a woman, my first response is my toes start to curl a little bit. I feel like even the word has become so tainted, it feels uncomfortable, right? Like, who wants to say, how bad did I feel earlier when I went up to the second floor to that recruitment fair for 16-year-olds asking where the seduction seminar was? I felt shame and embarrassment around that subject. And look, I'm a dating coach. So I think when you think about seduction, we often think about it as something that's kind of evil, something that makes us feel inherently uncomfortable. Sometimes it's called an art form as well, right? We've all read books and seen books called The Art of Seduction, when really I think all that does is detract from the roots of seduction, which is something that's natural and that should be there for everyone. I work now with both men and women, by the way, because I think this is a two-way street. I think that humans need to get better at not only connecting to themselves, but connecting to one another in a way of expressing their sexual desires that says it's okay, that you're allowed to be sexual with a person. In fact, it's positive and it's amazing. Now, the one comment I will make about my personal life is that I know that the kind of men that I'm magnetized towards and I really strongly gravitate towards are those that are very grounded in their sexuality. So when, Ross is telling you to feel that into your feet and get steady, it's that groundedness that's super attractive. When a man can look me in the eyes and say kind of the most outrageous sexual things with complete comfort and security within his own sexual presence, that's what's dynamically attractive. But that's really much easier said than done. And you might watch 100 videos on the internet about guys walking up to women and saying like outrageous, crazy stuff about how they have a great ass and blah, 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 blah. Yet if you did the same thing, it would feel really uncomfortable. It wouldn't maybe necessarily right now feel like that was you. And if you start to say something that you don't feel comfortable with, or you say something that you feel is inauthentic to yourself, you know what happens then? You don't get that wonderful grounded still presence. In fact, your toes probably do curl. You probably do hunch up. Your heart rate accelerates. You speak more quickly, slightly higher pitch, and all of those non-verbal signals that the pickup and dating industry tells you to control will go right out of the window, because that control is not coming from within yourself. So what I want to do in my talk today is really focus on how you can get seduction to be, I think, self-emanating, how you can feel really sexual within your body and within your bones, feel really comfortable and really okay with that. And then look at the effect it creates on the woman. Because something I hear time and time again is this over-focus on the female object that's in front of you. I hear, oh my God, she's so beautiful. What if I'm not her type? What if she doesn't like guys like me? And that could be like what if I'm not, tall enough? As a female dating coach, I can safely say I get about 1 email a day regarding penis size. So everything that I ever hear from men a lot of the time is about an external focus on the woman, a desire to please her and a desire to construct your behavior in a way that she's going to find seductive and erotic. And what you're really doing then is you're focusing all of your energy on the thing that is essentially most out of your control, another human being, rather than looking back inside yourself as to what you can resolve and what you can do internally to make yourself more seductive and more sexual. So today I'm going to be going to be doing some practical stuff as well. So I will be looking for demonstration people. So there will be some body language and some things that you want to set, some lines and some concepts about what you can say. But the idea I want to keep going back to is how seduction is an internal state of mind as much as it is an external practice. It's not about jumping through hoops. It's not about touching a woman in a particular sequence that makes her pants want to drop to the floor. It's about feeling really sexual and really grounded and truly amazing within yourself. So yeah, when I think about some men that I've met recently that have probably been the most sexual, I am a huge yoga and meditation fan also. So if any of you guys haven't been converted so far, please go, it's amazing. The most sexual man that I met recently was actually the yoga teacher, and he got up to the front of his class when I was doing my practice last week. He runs a class in Covent Garden called Tropical Hot Yogasana, which is the most sexual, weird, out there fitness class you could possibly go to. And he walks to the front of the room, and it's really interesting the dynamic he creates. He squats to the floor to begin with, goes into what looks like a trance, switches on Missy Elliott, lights some incense, and then begins to move through this program. And I tell you, the class is all female. He has 60 female groupies there religiously every single week. And when you're in the room, you're possessed by this man who's so in his flow, who's so confident with what he's doing, who's so comfortable in his presence, who's telling you to pull all of these postures, is speaking to you about the feelings that you're feeling within your body, and yet is so in control of his own world, is so inside his own mind. And so being the kind of girl that I am, I thought, I've got to meet this guy. So I hung around after the yoga class, and I did a Facebook exchange, and on some loose terms of networking, I arranged to meet him for a raw juice. Actually, it wasn't a coffee, it was a raw juice. And we sat down at the bar, and I was really excited because I was in awe of his presence and his sexuality and his command and how he made me feel when I was in his class. And the man that came before me was very shy and he was very quiet. He was a very interesting human being, but definitely not a sexual human being. And I recognized then that when he was in his element, when he was connecting to things that he really believed in, when he was teaching from his place of knowledge by being in front of that class, he was at the height of his sexual power. You take him out of the yoga studio, you take him out, you turn the Missy Elliott off, definitely no incense burning, and he had lost that kind of strand of sexual presence. And this is something I notice a lot of the time. It's there might be times when you out there, you feel more sexual, you feel more engaged and more present, but it's not consistent. And it's not a state of mind that maybe you find easy access to. So I'd ask everybody if you can think about a time when you feel most sexual, when you feel most powerful within yourself. Because I know for me, it goes up and down, it changes and it fluctuates. And when I say feels most sexual, by the way, I don't mean like when you're being stimulated by watching porn or something. That doesn't count. It's when you've got that feeling within yourself where you feel very strong, very solid, where you walk into a room and you know where you're at, where you feel incredible and you think, wow, I've got it. Maybe it's that feeling that you get, maybe you took a really attractive woman home the night before, and it's that feeling that you get when you walk into work the next day. Do you know what feeling I'm talking about? Yeah? Okay, sometimes people get this feeling at different times though, and it might not always be directly related to sex. It could be a time when you feel really powerful. Can anybody tell me a time when they feel super powerful and very amazing?
In front of the room teaching.
Exactly. Excellent. And I have that before, and you know what, one of my clients, he's a law professor, and he said he got that feeling, that same I've just taken a really amazingly attractive woman home feeling when he was at the front of a law class giving a lecture. Now, does that to me make sense? Does that make sense to you guys? Yeah. Why? Why does he feel most powerful then?
Because he's proficient he has a lot of experiences with something he's comfortable, and in that context is
And he's powerful within that context, right? He's automatically, the dynamic is that he's in a position of power.
Yeah.
He's definitely, you're right, teaching from a place of proficiency and from comfort. He's the boss. He's right in his comfort zone of knowledge and power. He's in his stronghold then. He's the professor. Can you imagine what kind of problems that was causing him when it came to how he was feeling sexual in his day-to-day life? Think about it. What's the worst thing that a college professor could probably do if he's feeling most sexual in front of that classroom? Sleep with a student. Yeah. So this I thought was really interesting. So what happens then if the height of when you feel sexual and when you feel powerful directly conflicts with something you're told you're not supposed to do or you're not supposed to feel? He was very aware that it was drilled into him that, hey, you know what? If you cross that line, if you have an affair with one of your students, that's it. Your career is over. That career that is his identity, that is the stronghold of his power. And so there was a huge conflict started to arise. Now, I know not all of you guys do a job like that, where you're like the yoga instructor who I'm sure doesn't give a fuck about those rules, or you're the law professor who feels really sexual and really powerful. However, I think generally in society what happens is a lot of the time when we feel sexual and powerful, we're told no, we can't. No, we definitely can't. And it comes in all sorts of different forms, and it's not just men, by the way, that get this, it's women that suffer from this absolutely as well. So what I want you to do is not only think about that time when you feel most sexual, because that's your power and that's the thing that you've got to hold on to when you approach that woman and you've got to focus on, but I also want to pick apart some of the things that might hold you back from truly expressing that. Because the problem is when you get that feeling of sexual power and then something holds you back, you're told that you're not allowed or that you can't, the expression doesn't come out right. I'll tell you what happens. So maybe you're walking down the street and you see a really beautiful woman. She's like 100% your type. She walks past, and you know when you just occasionally meet those people that are just so your type, they're just delicious, and it's like you're magnetized towards them, and you move and you think, God, I want to go and speak to them, and you feel that, and that's when you feel it, right? You're feeling it instinctually in your gut. Your gut tells you, I don't know what, maybe that you're a great genetic match, I don't know, but there's something about that person where you desperately would love to see them naked, and you just feel it. But then you look around and you realize you're in a crowded street full of people, and you think, can't really say that, can I? Because what's that guy and that person going to think? They're going to think I'm a rapist, probably. I'm probably going to get thrown in jail if I say that. And then you might wrestle through that, but then you think, what's she going to think about me? Is she going to think I'm a creep for saying that? Is she going to think that I'm one of those guys? Fuck. So you keep walking towards her, and you're now in full-blown debate, because you have this instinct that's pointing you in one direction, but you then have all of this don't and can't and not allowed that's pushing you in another. And so this conflict starts. And then she probably does something really fucking unhelpful, like she might walk into a shop. That makes things even worse. And it's probably going to be a girl's shop, it'll be a lingerie shop, just to really fuck you up. And you'll go into the lingerie shop, and suddenly you're so far out of where you feel comfortable, and you're like, oh my God, I'm going into a girl's shop I'm surrounded by bras, I shouldn't be in here, I have no reason to be in here, but I really want to tell her I want to have sex with her, fuck. And it's like, it's suddenly the things that would stop you expressing that sexual desire, they start to mount up really, really, really fast. But you keep walking, you're like, you know what, you went to a seminar over the weekend, you're feeling pumped up, you still want to chat to her. You walk up, take a deep breath, and you say, I'm here shopping for my sister's birthday. Do you have any idea what she might like? And the girl will look at you with a look of suspicion, by the way, because guess what? She's clocked. Women are smart, we're all intuitive creatures, and she knows that you really want to take her clothes off. And in fact, you're asking her some stupid bullshit question that you don't care about. because you don't feel that you can express that within you. So suddenly distrust is created right from the get-go, right? She doesn't trust you because what you're saying is not an expression of what you're feeling. It's a watered down, rubbish, restricted version of your sexuality. So she'll probably then, because she's too polite and she's also been conditioned to not call you out on that, she will give you a rubbish answer. She'll advise you to go for the pink ones because it's a safe colour. Then you'll both walk in your opposite directions and nothing will happen. And the irony is, she'll probably be chatting to her friends over a glass of wine later that night going, you know what, I'm never approached. Guys never approach me. It's like, they must hate me. Where are all the good men? And this is the pattern I see day on day on day. And I get it from my female clients. I hear complaining. I have a site called waitingisboring.com for all the women out there who are fed up. That's how much of a complaint it is. And then I find these men, and when I work with people, I know that they're sexual, that they're interesting, they're masculine, they're exciting individuals. And yet this never quite gets expressed to the woman within that moment. Because I think what happens is there's a massive disconnect between that instinct and what you say. And it's because we've been told not to be comfortable. It's because we've been told that sexuality is a no. It's because whenever we hear the word seduction, have any of you guys heard about the Kickstarter thing that's happening this week? You heard about that? Kickstarter? No, basically an online retailer banned all books on seduction after there was one that was written with like a bad misogynistic tone to it. But it's kind of a good example of how in society we treat seduction. We go, it's all bad, it's a dirty word, it's disgusting, you shouldn't really go there. He said, even I today felt awkward asking where the seduction seminar is. That's how ridiculous we've got to. So if we're living in a world where we're told so often that that's wrong and that's nasty and that we can't even say the word comfortably, who would feel comfortable talking about seduction to their mothers? It just feels nasty, doesn't it? And when we have that attitude towards our sexuality, and when we have our concerns about this person, what he, she, and they think of us on the street, when we worry about what she's going to think about us, when we start to be concerned that we're not her type, when we are worried that the environment that we're in is like inappropriate to say what we're feeling, we start to operate and create patterns of behavior of restraint, where we become further and further disconnected from our gut instincts. I'll give you one more example before I get into like the teaching points of how you overcome this. I'm just trying to ground us into exactly how much of a problem I think this is. So I was out at a nightclub with one of my clients, male client, and I said, you know what, let's just approach who you think is the most attractive woman in the room. And he looked around and he was like, he's like, I'm not sure. I went, what do you mean you're not sure? Well, just pick one that you think is good. He's like, okay, what about her? And I'm like, good. Okay, what do you like about her? What do you think is hot? And he's like, her style is nice. And I'm like, okay, what exactly about her style? I like her jeans. They've got a floral detail. Do you mean her legs? And that was weird, because I know that because I'm a woman, I will freak people out sometimes because they'll feel even less able to admit what they're really feeling in front of me, because they're not only worried about how she might think, they're going to think that they're going to worry about what my impressions of them might be. But you know what? I wanted to hear legs. I really wanted to hear that, and I wanted to feel that, because I know when I meet people that are connected with that sexuality, I know when I can meet someone who can look at me and say, hey, you've got great lips, or when when I'm on a date with a guy and we can make really heavy eye contact and we've connected and we know each other, and he can start telling me about exactly what we're going to do later on, and there's not a blip on the radar, there's no sign of hesitation or awkwardness around that subject. That feels incredible, because as a woman, who are you going to submit to? Who do you want to take control of your sexuality? Why would you want to be and have a love affair with a man who's uncomfortable in his sexuality? You just think the sex is going to be bad. So rather than trying to do everything to make her feel super comfortable or super turned on, I think it's much better to actually ground within yourself, figure out when do you feel most sexual, when do you really feel that desire within you. It might be when you see someone who's really your type, it might be after you've just had a great sexual adventure, it might be after you've done something in another area of your life that makes you feel really fulfilled and really strong and really confident. How do you hold on to that more consistently? And then how do you sack off the voices in your head that are telling you you can't, you shouldn't, and you won't? Because if you can get in control of that, and when you can acknowledge where you're being held back, and you can more truly express actually what your gut is telling you want to do, that's when things get amazing. Because when there's no disconnect between the two things, your non-verbal signals, you know, your facial expression, your vocal projection, your body language, fucking hell, you don't need to read a manual on how far away to stand from a woman or where to position your arms when you're speaking to her. Fuck that, you just say something that's consistent. You say something that's the truth, you say something that's honest and instinctual, your whole body language, everything is sorted out, everything is fine. One key thing that you can do, just to begin with, I want everybody to think about when they feel most sexual. I want everyone to have that knowledge. I also think everyone should inherently know what your sexiest qualities are. If I asked you, you know, what's the sexiest thing about you? One physical, one mental quality.
physical. What do you mean? On my body?
Yeah. Don't worry, this is a normal response, by the way. Most people don't know. I want everyone to know, ideally 3 things in each category, mental and physical. I want you to know, because then I want you to be able to tell people that and express that to them. Former partner of mine was like the antithesis. I went out with him for 5 years. He was the antithesis of a hunk. He was kind of like my height. He was like he put on 3.5 stone during the course of our relationship. Had a penchant for wearing pink Speedos, and was a crazy guy. But he would go around and he'd be like walking down Miami Beach full of like really ripped dudes. He'd be like have a bit of an overhang and he'd be like, yeah, I'm sexy. I rule. I'm an awesome guy. Because he really fucking felt that. He really believed it. You know what? All the women around him believed it as well. You know, that belief was so strong within himself, it gravitated out. So if you don't know what's really sexy about you, if you don't actually think like, you know, that there's things that would make a woman really want to be with you, how are you coming from a point in a position of strength to communicate that to her? Like, you've got to have that. It's got to start with you. It's not about tricking the system by learning a bunch of stuff that you can then conceal who you actually are, and then, you know, because you think, oh, actually, I'm not really a sexy guy. I'm not the kind of guy women find attractive, and so I better learn a bunch of stuff, and then hopefully I'll just pass. No. You figure out what's hot and what's sexy about you. If anyone doesn't know, I will work with you and I'll chat to you at the end of this at some point about what it is, because I will be able to tell you. And it should be mental and physical. I want you to know that, and I want you to be able to express that consistently. A good test, in fact, has anybody got something, or maybe a thing in each category that they feel confident about, that they're sexy? Yes, wicked. A good test of this is, can I have a female volunteer? Yeah, brilliant, perfect, you two. You can just come up. This is the litmus test, and you can do it with any other willing female volunteer if you have a friend. Hey, nice to meet you. I'm Hayley, by the way. Sophia, lovely to meet you.
I'm Mario. How are you?
Hey, cool. What I'd like you to do is actually face one another, get super close. Super close, so closer than that. I want to have some physical contact, strong physical contact, so maybe like the hand hold like this, like that, like that, like that.
Like
good.
Dancing.
Yeah, like you're dancing. You could even, like your dancing would be good. Why not? This wasn't what I intended, but it looks good. Okay, so now I want you to have like strong eye contact. I want to have you that grounded sense. And I just want you to tell her what's the sexiest thing about you, physical, mental, and then what's the sexiest thing about her.
Okay. I'm sorry for the accent, by the way.
I think it's sexy.
Okay. Because I'm Portuguese.
I like it.
About myself, I think the best characteristic is
Strong eye contact.
that I'm a determined person. So I have a strong intent in what I feel about life, the way I move through the world. For me, it's important, that kind of character. Physically, I'm okay with what I look. I would like to have a better hair, but
What's the
apart
most
from
sexy
that,
thing?
from my body,
Yes.
every woman tell me it's my ass. So, I'm sorry.
Okay. And
That's
to
okay,
her?
tell me.
To her?
I'm sorry.
Try and keep still and consistent.
And about you?
I would say the most sexy thing about my body are my breasts.
Agree.
Fair enough. And I must add your character also, because
The most sexy thing is, I think, that I can let it go totally.
Okay.
that's fantastic.
And what do you think is sexiest about her?
About her, I feel she
Into the eyes? Yeah.
mentally she's very charismatic, because I've noticed her participation in the seminar. So I think
Physically?
and physically, she has. I guess the breasts are really spectacular.
Okay, into the eyes. Slower? Slow. I want you to good phrasing.
Okay.
Slow, calm, into the eye. Looking whilst eye contact. There, that'd be good.
I must tell you that you have the most amazing breath.
Nice.
Good. Okay, wicked. Thank you very much, guys. Okay, that's cool. Sit down. Thank you. That's the real litmus test, is I was just testing for how comfortable you feel saying it. So ideally, and you notice when we got onto the sexier bits there, like we laugh. Because laughter is a way that we as human beings, we make things less threatening by laughing. No joke, in the Middle Ages, there were tons of jokes about the plague. Like, ha ha ha, the plague. It was because everyone was terrified of it. So if you want to know how consistent you are with that feeling, and I think you did a great job, by the way, overall, you need to be able to get that intimately and physically close to a woman. You need to be able to look her in the eyes, and I want you to be able to say and hold with consistency what you think is sexy about her and what you think is sexy about you. That's when you know you're getting to a point of comfort within your sexuality. So, borrow a female friend or something. Practice on me later, I don't mind. And that's when you are starting to get into what I think is more of an alignment between how you're feeling inside and what you want to express, because it's a combination of you really being self-aware and you knowing what is amazing about you, and then being able to actually express that. So for anybody that doesn't know, that this is something to work on, absolutely know it. Because I think when women get that sense that they're in the presence of someone who is very grounded within their sexuality, who's comfortable with it, who sees seduction as not really seduction, but as a natural interaction between men and women, that's really pleasing. I actually think it's like an oasis in a desert when you meet a man that's that comfortable with his sexuality, and it's really magnetic and attractive. If you can be that one man in the room who's done that conscious work to gain that comfort within your sexuality, you stand out amongst everybody else who feels that they have to use a line, or they, the stories I hear about like the ways that men have to go and meet and engage with women. One guy, they went to approach a woman at a bar, and he got his friend to pretend to be on the phone for 20 minutes so that he could say he was bored, and that was his reason for speaking to her. I mean, come on. This is like when you're not playing in the pantomime and you're actually playing with real life. That's dynamic. And I think it's dynamic especially because did you notice what was happening there is we were getting sucked into the moment. Like I was very, very gravitating towards and very engaged with what was happening between the two of them. And I felt tension within the room and within the atmosphere. Now I've got an explanation for why that tension is and how you can, again, use it consistently when you're expressing things, because it's one thing to know when you're feeling sexual. It's one thing to know what's sexy about you, and to also know that it's okay to appreciate that about a woman's body. By the way, you can say anything to a woman as a side note, absolutely anything. It's a question of intimacy. When guys, I think, are concerned about what they're expressing to a woman, whether it's appropriate or not, I think sometimes it's forgotten that it depends on the circumstance and the situation. If a woman is walking down the street and a builder yells after her, "Great breasts," she's going to flip. She's going to be pissed off with that builder. Who is he? How dare he? If she's in bed with a man that she's really attracted to and he says, "You have fucking great breasts," she's going to feel more turned on. She's going to feel more sexual. So stop thinking that you're the builder on the street. Start working on building the intimacy with the woman that allows you to say whatever you want with her. And the general rule of thumb, I think, with intimacy, by the way, is that the more intimate and the more open you're able to be with someone, the more they will reciprocate. So if you're okay to start talking to a woman, just like, sorry, I've forgotten your name. Sophia and Mario. Just like Sophia and Mario did then, when you're willing to bring that intimacy into the moment and show vulnerability on your side, what you actually do is you make it easier for her as well to become sexual and to allow herself to express herself. And the key phrase there was in the moment, because that's when is the best point to express your sexuality. So what do I mean by that? Well, I mean the moment is the time when you have the greatest breadth of opportunity to really express your sexuality and when it's going to have the most impact. I think it's kind of funny when, you know, you might think, God, okay, how do I express to this woman that I'm a sexual guy, that I'm comfortable within my sexuality? And you think, God, should I tell her a story, maybe a made-up one, about some like crazy sexual adventure I had in the past? Or maybe I should do, who's ever heard of like future adventure projections and all that kind of stuff? Yeah, old school game, right? It's always like into the past, or like, I'm a pick-up-asaurus, by the way. I've been actually in the community for a surprisingly long time. So all of those old routines I'm very afraid with. So if you think about, God, should I tell her a story about my past, or should I make something up of some crazy adventure that we're going on in the future? You're missing the trick, because the best time to express that desire within you, or how you feel sexual, or how you think she is sexual, is by powerfully pulling her into the present moment. Now, the present moment is incredible because it's the one that allows us the most scope and the most range for possibility. It's the moment where, as the seconds tick by, where someone can decide whether they're going to kiss you, whether they're going to run away with you, whether they're going to lead and take a more interesting insight and go on an adventure with you. It's that moment by moment decision making. It's that point where a man tells you, you know what, you've got great breasts, and your heart skips a beat and you can't be anywhere but inside that room and inside that space. And that's what you want. You want the woman's full focus to be on you. You want her to make her, force her into the intensity of the moment when you're expressing yourself sexually. It's a very, very powerful thing to do. Obviously, when you connect with a woman and you're building trust, you need to share stories about your past. You need to talk about your future dreams and aspirations and hopes. That's connection. When you're talking seduction, when we're talking sex, it's about today and it's about now, right now. What could we do right now? And again, before I give you a little technique to bring the woman into the present moment, I want you to think about, again, this starts with you. The present moment begins with you. You have to be aware of the possibilities that are open to you at any given moment in time. So what I mean by that is, if you can't see how you can get from the bar you're in into a more sexual or more intimate setting, or you can't imagine that happening, it's not going to happen. You have to be that point of origin. You have to see where this thing is going, and you have to believe it, and then you have to chase that feeling. That little part of your brain that's imagining that what you think is a 1 in a million scenario of the best possible thing that could happen right now. You need to follow that big time, and you need to get consistent in that. Women have been really powerfully and negatively, I think, conditioned a lot of the time to not act on that. So she's going to be generally, women, and I'm trying to coach women not to do this, but women are generally going to feel like they have to be more passive, and they're going to be looking to you to take the initiative, to lead them towards some exciting conclusion. So if you're sitting there and you have no idea what the exciting conclusion is, you're already screwed. You need to have that sense of purpose and vision. And you have to allow yourself to think that way. A good exercise, by the way, is to go back to near misses, and everyone has those in their past kicking around. Go back to near misses and really visualize how things could have turned out differently. How could you have rewritten the past? What could you have done in that moment? What could you have said? How could you have acted to change what happened into something incredible? Because when people are feeling consistent and when they're feeling sexual, it's usually because they've got a huge reference book in their mind of times when things have gone really well for them. They don't think anything of trying to get that woman to go back home with them that night, because history has told them that that's completely possible. and that happens, and that people have those kind of love affairs. So you have to begin by opening your mind up to all of the options that are available to you. I used to be terrified of sex and dating and relationships, by the way. I was telling these guys at the front, I got into this industry out of revenge, because I hated the world of pickup and dating. I found out about it. I was a feminist. I thought it was awful. And I was massively repressed, and I hated anything to do with sexuality. And in the end, I found that was, after a bit of thought and consideration, I decided that was counterproductive, and I was leading a very, very restricted, very unhappy life. So I made a conscious decision to start turning right with every situation I was in, to try and take the most interesting option, try and explore the craziest thing that I could do right then and right there. And if I ever felt really nervous or really hesitant, or I have felt that fear that always arises when we do something new, pushed through it mostly. I tried really hard to push through it. And then gradually, the more that you do this, the more that suddenly the options that are available to you within the present moment, they start to open up. At the start, I think you often begin when you're maybe on a date with a woman, you might only think of a couple of ways that this could possibly turn out. But then as time goes on, I want you to be aware of all the many, many, many options that are available to you at one given moment in time. So, you might be on a dinner date with a woman, and then you might have chosen the dinner date to be somewhere really close to your house, and you're thinking, well, maybe if I say that I've got this like wine at home, after the dinner, we're both a bit drunk, I might be able to convince her to come back and try some of the wine. Then I just need to get her into the bedroom. And that might be one train of thought, and the other one which will probably be loud, will be, it's probably never going to happen, so I'll just take it easy and maybe next time. And those might be the two options or the two routes that you see available to you. And instead, I want you to really powerfully start to imagine the other options of, you know what, actually, the waitress over there is kind of flirting with us as well. I wonder if I should ask about what time she gets off work. I wonder if I should start putting the idea out there about us having a really crazy adventure. I wonder if we can sink a couple of cocktails, chat to the waitress as well, and then all end up back at my place, no wine needed, no like placebo needed. And it's because you laugh and it's like, that would never happen. It does happen regularly to people. And it's not a negative thing. It's not about manipulating those two women. It's about also opening their minds up to the options that are around them at any given time. I think as the man, if you become very powerfully focused on what could potentially happen with them in the moment, it's like you kick a door down in people's minds and open up their mind too, and let them know, you know what, there are other things that we can do right now. You know what, fuck this. Going for a coffee in Starbucks and letting that be our life. There are more adventures that we can have. There's more exciting things that we can do right now. And that's always true. We forget all of the options that are available to us at any moment. Most of the time we get up, we go to work, we go to the gym, we watch a DVD, we go home to sleep, done. Fuck that. You know how many amazing things you could be doing right now? This is a pretty amazing thing. Actually, this seminar I think that Ross has put on this weekend is great, but generally, what could you be doing? You know, instead of like sitting at home thinking, rainy Saturday, not much going on, might as well just watch some sport on TV. You could go into the centre of London, you could set out to meet somebody, you could chat somebody up during the daytime, have an amazing connection with them, decide at the last minute to go up to the top of the Shard building, drink some champagne, take a view of London, and then end up, you know, staying out all night, going home at 6 a.m, back to your place and having a love affair, and then turning up to work the next morning, having had 48 hours of no sleep, but having created a lot of amazing memories. And that would be a better option. And that is entirely possible for everyone. That stuff is entirely possible. And for everyone that's there going like, that's really funny, fuck that, you've got to start believing that that stuff can happen. Because it starts with your belief and then it transfers to her. So how can you pull her into this present moment? Because the present moment, if you pull her into it, is where you really start to open up opportunities. I think just a very, very simple way of doing that. In fact, can I have volunteers? It's not an evil exercise. No one's going to get embarrassed. It's me. Okay, awesome. I don't do anything that sets anybody up. All the pressure is always on me during my exercises, by the way, so don't ever hesitate to volunteer. This is just a simple thing about paying a woman a compliment, or anybody a compliment. I think what can be a really lovely compliment to pay to a woman is partly when you're in that moment with her and you start to think you start to feel more attracted to her. Maybe she's just said something to you that you really admire. Maybe she's just told you how she's like screwing it and she's going to go travel. She's fed up of her life in London and she's going to go traveling for 6 months. And you suddenly think, wow, she's got a bit more to her than I realised. She's exciting. Now, when she's in that flow and in that moment and she's really enjoying herself, if you can stop her mid-flow and you stop and be like, hey, and just say, you know what? And what you do then, imagine if she's talking, you just stop her, bing, and it could just be through the very gentlest touch. Touch will automatically re-engage and connect somebody to the moment. So if they're busy talking about their exciting travel plans and you go, you know what? And you stop, and it's almost like you have a timer and time stops for a second. Because that touch, that connection that you're experiencing, that eye contact, and you know what? You're so sexy when you talk about your crazy travel plans. I love free and adventurous people. If you say a very sincere, and then you go, oh, anyway, you were saying, carry on.
Right, I got it.
Yeah, you got it? So do you want to try? I'm going to talk about Thailand. Yeah, awesome. I'm going to go traveling there next month. It's going to be great.
Talking to other people while I was talking to you.
Yeah, talk to me. Stop me mid-flow. I'm really excited about my travel plans. I can't wait.
When you go to Thailand?
Question. Make a statement.
Oh,
Pay
right.
a compliment. So it's like, you know what?
Oh, right, so yeah.
You're super sexy. I find it so attractive when you're talking like that.
Right, I've got yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. Thailand. Yay!
You know what? You're super sexy when you talk about Thailand. I actually love the freedom you're producing right now.
Okay,
I'm
good.
free.
Good. Yeah. It's more about it's not about exactly about, that was awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
Sit down. What you can do there is, it's not about Thailand. Thailand isn't sexy. It's the qualities that she's demonstrating. So there's a few things that are going on. First of all, you're using the touch to first of all, she's excited. She's talking from a point of enthusiasm. This is a great time to do this. So she's kind of expressing herself. Second point, you feel attraction to her due to something she's expressing. Okay, so if you don't find women interesting in any way, you probably shouldn't be on a date with her, because you kind of need it in order to do this. Third point, you stop her by using maybe just a tiny touch. Sometimes you can just project your voice. You say, you know what? You're so sexy when you talk about that. There's a few other things that are going on. Not only do you have the touch that brings the present moment, you also use you. You is a very hypnotic word. It's why advertisers use it all the time, right? Have you ever had an accident that's not your fault? You. So when you're using that second person you, it, again, like the touch, it will pull their focus back to you. And when you have their focus, when you have that eye contact with them, that's the time when you deliver the strong line or the strong thing that you want to say. If you're not so comfortable, or you don't feel it's appropriate, or something, you're not at that space yet where you can tell a woman physically that you've seen something and you've noticed something really fucking sexy about her, then sometimes you can use sexy or attractive and pair it off with a personal attribute. And it's even better if this is sincere, by the way, if you've sincerely found something you think is really amazing about her, and you can say, you know what, you're really sexy when you talk about that. I once was chatting a lot excitedly about Chaucer or something. I'm a big geek for the medieval period. This is my second reference to it within 1 hour. Keep going. And a guy said to me, you know what, you're so sexy when you talk about literature like that. I love women who know things and have got an understanding of that kind of stuff. And the way he said it, he was saying sexy, he was saying attractive, he was saying love. So all these words that have very strong emotional responses were being like bing, 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 were being ticked off in my head. And yet he was making it about a personal quality. So I knew that there was a specific engagement with me. He wasn't just indiscriminately out to, bang whoever was in front of him. There was something about me in that moment that he was finding exciting. So you can do it with a physical quality, or you can do it with a mental quality. Get good at pulling people into the moment. Use the touch, use the eye contact, use you to really, really connect to them. And remember, slow, steady, eye contact. Slow is seductive. Deliver that compliment with purpose. Deliver that phrase like you really mean it. Give it some weight. And then you touch again, you say, anyway, carry on. You stop and start the interaction using that little point of touch. And then by giving her permission to carry on speaking, she'll go back into her story. But you know what? You would have created a huge... She'll have had a sharp intake. If you've done it right, she'll have had a sharp intake of breath. She'll have gone, because she knows your focus is on her. Because at that moment where you deliver that compliment, when you're both in the moment, you get her and yourself to acknowledge that, you know what, yeah, you're on a date, you're in a bar, blah, 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 but you're actually a man and a woman who are there, who might want to have sex with one another, possibly very, very, very soon. Get that acknowledgement, put that out there. Make her in the present moment and make her recognize that option, and recognize it within yourself as well to begin with. So the present moment is something you want to be using massively. So yeah, I think a lot of the time the problem is with I think a lot of the time when things go awry is when you're not actually within that present moment, when you're concentrating on so much on what you think is the right thing to do, what you should do, or what the forum said, that you're not really able to dynamically engage with the woman. Because the woman is going to be showing you through her facial expression and her body language exactly what her comfort levels are, how attracted and how interested she is in you. That's the feedback loop. Here is everything you need to know about how it's going. It's not up here. So by creating that feedback loop, that's the focus that you need to have. So if you notice your mind wandering and thinking, God, how do I get this onto the next stage? Should I tell some kind of story here? What do I do next? I've touched her twice on the arm. Is it okay now to touch her on the shoulder? When you have those kind of questions in your head, you need to kick your own butt and you need to say, look, shut the fuck up. There's an attractive woman in front of me, I better focus on her. So pull yourself, really use everything you have to take control of your own headspace and your own consciousness as well. Push yourself into the present moment as much as possible, because that's when you're really going to get that dynamic feedback that you need to make those kind of connections to a woman. So something you want to think about is not seeing seduction really as a linear sequence or like a game. That you could, if you do a certain amount of things in a certain order, that you luck out and you get the woman. That's completely not how it works. There's loads of external forces continually at play. So when you're thinking about, that's why I think it's kind of ridiculous when I see things like, who's seen escalation ladders? No? No? Wicked, don't, oh yeah, it's all right. We've all, Wicked. If you haven't heard about them, don't bother researching them. They're all about a sequence and order that you can touch a woman in order that she feels, what's appropriate. So you might go, this is the safest place to touch, then you go to this place, then maybe the shoulder, then maybe the back, and then maybe then you can touch her on the head. That's not real life. That's not how things work. Instead, I think it's much better to get really consistent about how you would rather touch a woman, how you would like to engage with her, and what feels natural and what feels great to you, and then start to act on those feelings. So rather than having a pre-prepared plan in your head about a sequence of touches that you're going to do, instead grounding more into the present moment and in fact really thinking, what do I want to happen next? Where do I want this to go? How would I like her to be sat next to me? How would I like to be touching and engaging with her? Could I have a male and a female volunteer? It's a nice one. One male, wicked, woman, female? Yeah? It's nothing bad, I promise. If I'm lying, you can tell me off afterwards, right? We need 2 chairs, probably low ones are good. Can we chuck that one? Oh, not with the camera. Okay.